As I've been exploring my need for comparison against other people for validation, I have noticed the heavy emphasis that my complaint videos have had for one person in particular, my partner's mother. So the thought occurred to me that perhaps that could be a product of internalized misogyny. And although I don't think that's the case outright, I do think that our gender role and familial station do have a large part in this. A lot of it is a matter of proximity, but that is also a direct result of our similarity. We are both unemployed women living in the same house with male partners who work together as a father-son in their business. So yes, the space that she occupies overlaps with mine the most in any given day, but our existences also parallel. I fear that I may be projecting onto her as much as I compare against her. I consider myself a burden. I am enabled to exist as I do through the generosity of my partner and his family, and so I try to supply value in other ways. For my partner, that comes in acts of service. I feel better about our situation when I do the laundry or cook him meals or enable him to do the things that he struggles with, such as making sure he wakes up in the morning, sometimes, stuff like that. I consider that the least that I can do since he's the one going to work and providing for me. When it comes to the burden I feel that I am upon his family, there is nothing I can do to equalize that. It's also hard to quantify because the value I receive far outweighs the burden that I am. If we didn't live in their house, me and my partner would be suffering thousands of dollars in rent. But we don't cost his parents thousands of dollars in utilities to live with them, if you see what I'm saying. If we didn't occupy our rooms in the house, they would just simply be empty. We consume electricity, but we also lighten the burden of various household maintenance that others forego. We consume food, but we also cook special meals for the family, help with dishes, mitigate waste. I make myself available to the family business when it's needed, and my partner working directly with his father is basically our compromised rent agreement. Of course, his father does pay us fairly, but they wouldn't have access to me or my partner if we didn't live in their house, and they kind of desperately need Z and how competent he is. In the end, of all the things, the worst burden that I am upon the household is the space that I consume, and so I do everything in my power to try and take up as little space as possible. And I mean that in a variety of ways. I stay in my room and I'm quiet, and I also make sure that I don't impede on common areas or inconvenience other housemates. Those are things that I am actively aware of and continuously put effort into doing because, again, I feel like such a burden. And looking at all that, the picture of me, it's easy to see why I project onto my partner's mother so much. We are the same person, but 30 some odd years apart. I also think she is kind of a burden on her husband and should adhere to the same standards that I set upon myself. Which, yeah, sounds terribly misogynistic, but when I've seen other people in a position of imposing burden, including other males, usually financially, I get highly comparative as a means of justifying myself. Like, yeah, I'm a burden, but at least I'm not as bad as that person. There is a lot more nuance to the dispersions I cast upon my partner's mother than simply the fact that I want to find ways that I can feel better about myself because we're so similar. I have some valid questions about consideration from another adult housemate in general, and genuine concerns for safety when her absent-mindedness opens the possibility for harm unto others. But that doesn't absolve me of the fact that I have ideals that I think we should be hitting as fellow tradwives, as it were. I don't think the position of a tradwife is inherently flawed, but the execution of it has been over the decades. People who choose domesticated roles deserve recognition for their labor and effort. But that's also kind of the point, that I think partnership should be equal, and I don't think I do quite enough for mine to be truly equal. And thus, whenever she falls short of any expectations that I have for myself, the judgment I cast is multiplied and skewed. If I'm not doing enough and she's doing less, or in most cases of my complaints being inhibiting, then that's unforgivable. Although, theoretically, she's already done far more than me by raising a family of 3 children. She should be allowed to coast on that credit for, ever. Retire on it. but I also don't see things like other people. I form opinions based on patterns and the present. I form judgments on who I see you as a person, not your past, not the things that I didn't see or experience. There is no resting on laurels with me. Even in saying that, though, I am erasing her individuality through my ideals and my projecting of my own subjective sense of equality. My sense of guilt and financial justice is the best way I can describe it, is bad. I do not feel like I deserve fucking anything. And that's not fair to transfer onto her just because we're in the same boat. An example is that she likes to travel. Every year, her and her husband go on several trips. Every other month or so, it's like a long weekend to another town, including hotel stays and fancy dinners, and sometimes she goes out of the country with other people, and they've collectively invested in the equipment needed to go on month-long vacations, I guess you'd call them. If I were in her position, because I am in her position, I wouldn't feel comfortable asking for those sorts of things when I'm not contributing to the finances. It would feel unequal and selfish to expect to be allowed that sort of luxury. But I'm not her. Those are my stigmas. If that works for them, if that's okay within their dynamic, it's none of my fucking business. I can't expect her wanderlust to disappear just because she is now in a life state that's retired and stay at home, and I have ideas about how that should play out. So it's complicated. Although my idea of an ideal tradwife may be rooted in an upbringing of 90s misogyny, I think I've adequately adapted to it simply being another acceptable form of partnership role. I may cast heavier judgments upon my partner's mother due to our proximity and similarity, but I don't think that means that I don't get to have opinions against things I would otherwise judge in any other person. But in writing all this out, I do need to be aware that sometimes I am projecting my own self-hatred onto her life station and actions therein. Treating being a domestic partner as an equation can lead to unfairness to the individual. Thinking about things in terms of it's the least you can do when it comes to supporting a working partner is a slippery slope that got us into the misogyny of considering being a tradwife and mother as expected, undervalued, and unpaid labor. When her husband gets home from work and she has a labor task that she asks him to help with, why do I really feel the ick? Is it because I think he's overworked and deserves some time off? Sure, but I shouldn't expect her to stop having the hobbies that she has just because of their dynamic, right? The example is gardening, by the way. In any other situation, an equal partnership would demand that he enable her as well, within reason. Just because I'm mortified to take up space as a domestic partner shouldn't infect my view of my partner's mother or her relationship so long as it works for them. That's the potential misogyny that I've been getting worried about, I guess. I do try to see things not in terms of male-female, though, just the value of different acts of contribution. So, if it ever feels like I'm letting more things affect my discussions, which involve her, than the actuality of what I am talking about, I would like that to be pointed out. I try to be fair, but as highlighted in this video, I am still quite biased. It is complicated, but I do hope I'm not actually that permeated with internalized misogyny. If you disagree, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments. If you think I'm doing an okay job at navigating the parallels and self-imposed standards and self-hatred, and are proud of me, that's also appreciated. At any rate, thank you for watching this whole video, and I'll see you in the next one where I overanalyze and dissect various aspects of my life and the people around me yet again. Okay, bye.